Aloha, I'm Susie Varislum, the director of the Daniel K. Inouye Asia-Pacific Center for Security Studies. For 30 years, DKI APCSS has been a bridge connecting people among nations, building trust, and fostering peace through strength throughout the Indo-Pacific. From our classrooms to capitals across the region, our 16,000 alumni lead with courage, vision, and cooperation, turning dialogues into action and partnerships into lasting security. In this region of consequence, we stand together, advancing resilience and capacity so that peace and prosperity can endure for generations to come. I recently had the distinct and privileged opportunity to walk around this campus with the first executive director of the Asia-Pacific Center for Security Studies, Dr. Jimmy Lackey, where he shared with me the storied history of this very special place.
So great to have you here. Welcome back.
Imagine a rectangular-shaped building, flat roof, no facade in front, and where we're standing right now was a muddy parking lot that held about 30 cars. And so I knew the building was opening up. I'd been looking for a building for about 3 years, and this looked like the best choice for me, but it needed a lot of work. And so I saw it as 50,000 square feet of great office space, classrooms, seminar rooms, and an auditorium.
Yes, congratulations and thank you for your investment because it looks incredible. These walls have now brought in so many leaders from all around the world, 16,000 alumni now.
Actually, I drafted the first design.
Oh, you did?
You know, this used to be a solid ceiling above us, which is the floor for the second level, but we wanted a grand entrance. We wanted the flags displayed. You want people to walk through the door and go, wow.
Yeah.
First impressions, I felt, made all the difference in the world. And so I think we got that. The main auditorium with the flags on either side, that was the final thing that sold Admiral Prier, that we really could have a really classy place to bring people in and focus on it being an educational facility as opposed to a training facility. You know, the overhead was there, the tile has obviously changed. This used to be the centerpiece, and this is where all the photos were taken, etc. So you can look back through history and you see this is it.
And that was all part of your vision too, is that we'd have a place?
Yes.
Wow.
So, you know, this was the gathering place. Those of us that have lived in Hawaii for a while, fell right into it, was the ohana. And so how do you bring people together? And you've got a number of cultures already, just with your staff. This became one of those tools that we use to get people to come together, having an informal lunch, celebrating informal holidays, that sort of things. And of course, the Taste of Asia-Pacific was a good thing because that brought everyone together then, the students plus the staff and faculty. But having a staff that feels comfortable with being flexible is very important. Tom Patakula, you heard his name a gazillion times. Tom put his heart and soul into it. Every student loved him. It's very important to have people that believe in the mission and are willing to do anything it takes to make it work.
Of course, the crest is amazing. The name after Daniel K. Inouye, the senator, our late senator for Hawaii. When did he come and how was he involved?
I saw him usually at least once a month at one of the times, and we're fully operational in Waikiki Trade Center. He had been there, he had seen it, he was very pleased with it. He got to see one of the classes in session. Sitting in my office, and he said, "Okay, what are your problems?" And I said, "Well, we're spending a lot of money on leasing space and a tower in Waikiki.
Suboptimal for what you were trying to achieve."
And I said, "It's expensive. I think there's only one place that I've seen that has the potential, and that's the facility at Fort DeRussy." He said, "I think that would be an excellent idea." He agreed to help. And
yes,
he did.
And here's his legacy, but he wouldn't allow it to be named after him until he...
Every time I went there and briefed him, "Don't even think about this." And I said, "Sir, I got it. I heard you the first 3 times and laughed."
Yes, he didn't want anything named after him, so it wasn't until he passed, right?
But he had done a number of things that supported education, technology, and this was perfect.
My name is Jennifer Sabas. I'm the director of the Daniel K. Inouye Institute, and previous to that, had the amazing good fortune to have worked for Senator Inouye for more than 25 years, serving as his chief of staff. He was the second to the last to be accepted, if you will, into the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. That was the all-Japanese Army unit. They fought in many locations. He was in Italy in a very difficult battle where he lost his arm, and for which he received the Congressional Medal of Honor, right, the highest award for military valor. I think it says it all. Their go for broke, which was their motto, and they did everything. And while that unit lost the most per capita of men, they also had the highest per capita of medals and declarations, and had something to prove to this country as well as to themselves. He talked a lot about how that changed the entire trajectory of who he was and his career. He was a thoughtful leader, whether it was in his own community in Hawaii, whether it was his military career or nationally and then internationally. I think his greatest contribution was being thoughtful, being steady, and being a role model for so many that have stood on his shoulders. He and Ted Stevens were also very good friends, and because of that, they were able to work across the aisle. Those two were traveling in Europe together on a defense trip, and they spent time at the Marshall Center. And so they looked at each other, and Senator Inouye said, "Why don't we have one of these, right, on domestic soil?" And that was the beginning of the Asia-Pacific Center. And he would always say publicly, if this investment allows for conversation, and if this investment then allows for conflict to be averted, what a small investment we have made in the name of peace.
I was hired in spring of 1995, and I was specifically hired to design and help execute the inaugural conference for this new institution that was being stood up. At that time, under the auspices of U.S. Pacific Command. Met with my new boss. He was then a colonel. So Colonel Lackey welcomed me in this old, dank office. It's what he had been allocated. And he brought out 2 metal folding chairs. It's all he had. I started to ask him questions. It's my first day. So I was like, well, so sir, what is going to be my budget for this inaugural conference? What am I working with here so I can get my scale down? And his answer was, yeah, we don't have funding. It was going so well. I was like, last question, sir. How big is the staff that we have to inaugurate, to stand up this center? His answer, 6. There were 6 of us. Yeah, we have nothing. I mean, literally, those folding chairs is what we started with. There was 1 fax machine and 1 printer. That was APCSS equipment. We did hold the inaugural conference that September of that year. It was quite successful, and it was attended by heads of defense from throughout the region. We needed to cut the ribbon, and the vision was that all 44 heads of defense would be able to cut that ribbon. You want to know a funny story? It's my seamstress that does my clothing. She did that ribbon for us. That purchase order for 44 pairs of scissors looked really interesting going through. Got kicked back several times. I needed all, it's those little things, really. We were just figuring it out as we went along. We were figuring out what worked, what didn't work. We found out a lot of what didn't work. It was definitely more art than science. And I'm just so grateful that for those next 27 years, I was able to serve the DKI APCSS mission, but also proud of what we were all able to accomplish.
My name is Charlie Salmon. I'm a retired Foreign Service officer, and I worked at the center from 1996 till I retired again in 2014. While the road wasn't always smooth, it was pretty straight. And so we moved fairly quickly to have our first class in 96. And I remember there were about 26 people from 15 countries or something. We went on for bigger and better things after that. During the presidency of my old War College classmate Hank Stackpole, who was a retired Marine 3-star, and then with Ed Smith, a retired Army 3-star, and then the last head of it when I was here was Lieutenant General Dan Leaf, who was an Air Force officer. What's the old saying? In every day and every way, it got better and better. we started reaching out to the region, which was I think one of General Smith's great contributions, taking our courses and our expertise to various countries. Through that and our actual classes, we developed, I think, a very substantial alumni program. You could see the success that many of our graduates had in their own particular military institutions.
There is no organization like APCSS. This is the kind of organization that if we didn't have it, we'd have to invent it. APCSS is absolutely critical to be a mouthpiece for the United States government, the Department of Defense in particular, in the way that we want to talk to allies and partners throughout this region and beyond. But it also is a place for people with big ideas, really thoughtful approaches to come together, to test those ideas against one another, refine them in the most effective ways, and try to come up with cooperative approaches moving forward that are best suited for their interests and our collective interests together.
Malohia is the address of the street that's out in front of the center here. It's also the name of the hall, which is our newest part of the center. Ground was broken in 2010 and it was finished in 2012, and it is state of the art. So it is the perfect venue for exactly this. But it's also appropriate because of the name. The Hawaiian name, Malohia, means haven for peace. This area that our campus currently sits on is known as Fort DeRussy. It's U.S. Army territory. Before World War II, it was a coastal artillery battery. But this ground for a long time was a U.S. Army Reserve deployment area. There was also a bar here called Malohia Hall, and it boasted for some time having the longest bar in Asia. Malohia Hall was a United Services organization and would host dances and performances at Malohia Hall for service members and their friends and family members during the war, whether it be World War II, Korean War, or the Vietnam War. I know in my heart of hearts that my mom and dad probably had a dance or two in Malohia Hall, because this is where all the guys coming back for rest and recuperation during the war had to check in and then process back to the combat theater. But when we constructed our newest part of the center, we felt it appropriate to name it Malohia Hall. It's kind of an extension of that spirit, the spirit of Malohia, a place where we can bring, in this case, security practitioners together. It's a place for them to detach, if only momentarily, for enough time to be able to consider someone else's perspective and then hopefully develop pathways to solve those problems.
I was first hired here in 2000 and I returned in 2008, and I've been here ever since because this center has been really good for my family and for me. The work is always interesting, and I love dealing with our fellows. I learn so much from them. It's a wonderful give and take. The faculty and the people here in general tend to be very outgoing. They have an enthusiasm that I think translates to the camaraderie we have with our fellows.
It's a great mission. It's an enduring mission. So I think we will always need a place like APCSS for people to come together. It's surrounded by beautiful, beach and environment, but it also plays into fellows become very relaxed. Because they're relaxed, they put aside all the talking points and the nationalism. They just become one. And I think that ohana or aloha spirit, really capture them, and then it makes the discussion a lot more useful and profitable for all of us. Because we're able to really discuss really difficult situation in a very mutually respectful way.
It truly is a distinct honor to be the director of the Daniel K. Inouye Asia-Pacific Center for Security Studies. And I know that I stand on the shoulders of giants those who had the vision, alongside this very distinguished set of faculty, staff, and our alumni throughout the region and the world. I look forward to working together so that we can ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific and ensure peace and prosperity for all. Aloha and ahui ho.